All right, we're back right here on Around Midnight. You've got the local boys. Todd Fluker's over there, Chevelle Devine, and myself, Joe Carbonetta. Notice how I did that in reverse, coming back from the break? See, we went out one way, come back in the other. It was that was cool, wasn't it?
I had totally didn't even know.
That's
requires
just how my wife told me to do it.
skill, people. This requires skill. This is why you shouldn't attempt to do this at home. Because it couldn't possibly be any worse than this. Anyway, we are live, 951-356-6882. That is the number to call us at if you'd like to join the conversation tonight. And it's already an interesting discussion. We had to cool Todd off during the break after he pulled up that last bit of footage, which, as I understand, has somehow become the thumbnail for the show.
Yeah. That's the most unfortunate.
Anyway.
Or is it?
I don't know. This might be like that one episode we have on YouTube that has the most hits.
Oh, yeah. What was that? The one with porn in the title or something like that? Yeah.
Or something we like to refer to as clickbait.
Clickbait. That's about the size of it. Okay, well,
we need to start putting butts as our thumbnail. That's how you get the clicks, the click-clacks.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Speaking of butts, let's go with...
In the news.
Oh, this is going to take forever.
So, earlier today, a federal court judge has ordered the DACA program to be reinstated. What they said was that the Trump administration killed the program for no good reason and needs to put it back together again, almost effective immediately. The federal government now has till the 23rd of August to appeal this ruling. Otherwise, the ruling goes into effect, and DACA needs to be reinstated right away. What do you guys have to say about that one?
I mean, we saw this coming, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't think anybody in their right mind can rationalize why he shut that program down.
I totally can rationalize.
There was
why he
little
shut that
chance of
program
it
down.
actually like staying that way.
Yes. Wait a minute. Survey said resident butthole.
No, I mean,
As with everything Chevelle says, it's completely false.
Oh.
my problem, it's a wonderful program. I understand the sentiment, but I just don't know that it works. And I'm guessing you have to try it for a while to find out that it works. But
Well, if you listen to all the vocal proponents of it, it's apparently been working relatively well. I mean,
how could you say it doesn't work?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not
who
saying
is
it
actually
doesn't.
coming
I'm
out
saying
against
I don't know that it does.
besides ignorant people like Trump that are just, I don't even know what the purpose of him cutting it was. I'm sure he had some.
He hates Latinos.
Yeah, I'm sure he had some asinine reasons about, cutting unnecessary government spending when he's really just trying to give kickbacks to his old boys club or something like that.
I don't think it has anything to do with kickbacks at all in this case. It has to do with a promise he made to his base that he was going to deport all the illegal immigrants, and these people were given they came in technically illegally, but were given a pass, if you
Amnesty.
will. Yeah, they were given temporary amnesty, and Trump said,
they?
we're going to get rid of all these people.
How does this temporary amnesty work? Like, what were they given? Were they given some tangible document that says, hey, you're a dreamer, you can stay, or what? What were they actually given?
They were given the DACA program. They were actually given papers that said they could stay in and get their education.
Okay. And then what, though? Because I know people who were in this situation.
Beyond that, I don't know. I guess in theory, during this time period, they could do what was necessary to seek a permanent resolution to the problem, i.e., going through the process of either naturalizing or at least becoming legal permanent residents.
And then that's where the problem comes, because I don't think that that's happening. And I don't know that it's because they're not trying, but I certainly believe that the bureaucracy would prevent that from happening.
Well, I do think, there is an issue with trying to stay in the country after your education is complete.
Yeah.
But I know there are many companies that will sponsor you becoming a citizen if you're, you present certain skills and things like that. Doctors, engineers, nurses, whatever it is, the company needs, whatever said company is.
Well, then the problem
they can
with that,
sponsor that kind of thing and, kind of grease the wheels of bureaucracy.
I don't think they're doing that. And
You don't think who's doing that?
I don't think
What
the
does that
businesses
even
are doing
mean?
it. I don't think the businesses are sponsoring that many people from the DACA program.
Well,
but
how
what
many
I do
people
know,
are they supposed to sponsor?
I don't know.
If in
what I'm
fact,
saying
well,
is,
what are you talking
what
about?
I'm saying is that those same businesses are more likely to go outside of the country and import people, because ultimately for a lot of these companies it's about being able to control a population, and that's my fear with these people specifically. You're telling them, hey, you know, we're gonna give you a chance to prove yourself, when in reality the government really has no interest or has any real motivation to either legalize them or anything else. Like, I would love to see that happen. I'd like to see that become a reality. But then the reason why the government won't do it is because it will actually inspire more people to do that same thing.
well, if in fact the problem, as you see it, is that there is no path to permanent residency post DACA, then the solution is let's just trash the program
No,
instead
I'm not saying the
of
solution is let's
streamlining
trash the program.
instead of streamlining the process to become a legal permanent resident. Instead of fixing that,
No,
it
I'm
was
all
easier
for
to
fixing
trash the
that.
program.
I'm 100% for fixing immigration. The problem with me is, and I think
And
a
there
lot,
are many.
I think a lot of the reason that people think that I'm insensitive, it's not really an insensitivity. It's basically a numbness and an apathy, because I've been hearing the same crap for so long from all these politicians. They put out rules and regulations that make you feel like they're doing something, when in reality they're just finding better ways to do nothing at all.
did he just
That's the same
say
way.
that his problem was apathy?
Yeah, well, I am apathetic to the situation.
You realize you are a
yes.
walking contradiction, because in one
understand.
breath you have said you hate apathy, and then you just said I'm apathetic.
Yes, absolutely.
So you hate yourself.
I have problems with it. Yes. My point is this, though.
Well, who doesn't?
They have created an institutionalized system where you basically are creating an indentured servitude, because they can't go back to their country, because you have people that are born in the U.S. to illegal immigrants, or no, you have people who were brought over when they were children. They were born in the U.S. They are citizens.
Right.
You have people that are born in the country, raised in the country, only country they know, go through everything, fluent in English, might be stellar, you know, graduates and whatnot, the whole 9 yards, but that paper gets in the way. And DACA is a solution for that, but just like every government program, the implementation just always falls short. And I'm not saying that I have a solution. I'm not saying Trump's solution was the right solution. I don't believe that to be the case. I just wish they would stop talking about fake solutions and just do something real.
Well, I've said for I don't know how long we've covered issues of immigration on this show since we went on the air with this show some
20 some odd years ago.
20 some odd years ago,
and they
I've
still
said
don't do anything. That's
all
why
along,
I can't. That's part of the reason, and I've said this before. That's why I can't get mad at Trump. He's inherited an age-old problem.
We need to streamline and fix the system
So how
that
do you
allows
do that?
people to come into the country and become legal. Because the argument has been over and over again, well, these people come in and they avail themselves of all of our public services and they return nothing, which, by the way, is not true. Most
That
of
is
them
not
work
true.
very hard, and they even pay taxes because they want to do everything by the book with the hopes that someday they will become legal.
And actually, one of the ways that they supposedly are supposed to be able to streamline that process is going to join the military.
Yeah, and they've gotten
Military
that
was
rug
supposed to be a
pulled out
path
from
to
under them too,
citizenship.
which again I think is something that is completely broken, because if you put on the uniform for this country, you should be given all the rights and guarantees of a citizen.
And this is my point. They're creating an indentured servitude. You're creating people, and it's a carrot. They're saying, oh, yeah, you can be a citizen, but they're not executing that last piece of the puzzle.
So you think the way to solve that is Trump's solution?
No, I do not think the way to solve that. But
you think that's,
just to
quote,
put this kind
better
of in
than
perspective,
nothing?
just to put this in
Or-
perspective, because we're talking about bureaucracies, and this is a discussion that we've had before, because we've talked about how when you go to take a driver's test, you've got books in 45 languages, and you're saying English is the language of the nation. They should just be in English.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're streamlining the process, does that mean that you're not going to do all of those different languages? Because then that's making it harder, because you're not making it easier
Well-
if you're not providing them with materials in their native tongue.
And to that I say, if I drive down the street and I want to find a particular street or a freeway on-ramp or even know what the speed limit is, are those signs printed up in 14 different languages? No,
Well,
because
it depends on where you are.
if
You drive
they
through
were-
Monterey Park or Alhambra, you got at least a couple of languages.
if
I
they
can't read a lot
were,
of those
you wouldn't be able to
signs.
see anything. There would be no, you wouldn't see buildings, you wouldn't see businesses, you wouldn't see anything but street signs. They're all printed only in English.
Not all of them. There's
Wait.
a lot of signs that are printed both in English and Spanish. Not street
Traffic signs?
Not street
Yeah,
signs.
we're
where?
talking
What are
about
you
traffic
talking about?
signs.
You're talking about the taqueria on the corner?
Now you're making me hungry.
Businesses can, they can print whatever they want as far as their name is concerned, or anything like that. But I'm talking about about driving down the 210 or the 405 or the 710 freeway, and I look up at a street sign that's telling me that there's traffic ahead because of an accident, or that I need to take this lane for an interchange to the other freeway.
I've actually seen that yellow flashing sign on the freeway in Spanish before.
You have.
I don't remember what.
Were you driving close to the border?
No. Okay, but now here's a situation. I think part of the problem is a lot of people are romanticizing this whole idea of naturalization. And they're doing that because back in the 40s and 50s, when you had people who were coming back from World War I, World War II, immigrants coming to America because basically America destroyed their countries, which is the same reason a lot of these people are coming from some of the South American countries, Middle Eastern countries. America has essentially gone in and destroyed some of these countries, their economies, and planted fake politicians in so they can control them. But it's not the same type of place. I mean, those people came over, learned the language, worked, sweated, and a lot of times maybe died without ever having realized citizenship, but their children got a chance. But those children were born in the U.S. The problem we have now is that people are a lot easier to. It's a lot easier for people to travel. People are a lot more transient. They're a lot more mobile. So when you've got people crossing the border hundreds at a time, frankly, that's a problem.
Unless they're more mobile, unless you're flying Aeromexico.
Not sure how to treat that.
Did you guys see that?
No.
Oh yeah, that was all over the news last night too. That there was an Aeromexico flight trying to leave Mexico. It went down the runway, it took off, it became airborne, and then was slammed back to the ground by a gigantic gust of wind because they were trying to take off in a storm.
Huh.
And the thing skated on its belly across the runway, ripped off both the engines, kind of peeled off the top of the aircraft somehow or other. The whole thing caught fire. Amazingly, all 140 passengers got off the plane in one piece. The pilot was the most severely injured. But as of today, some guy in Chicago's already filed a lawsuit against Aeromexico because he says they should not have attempted to take off in that kind of weather.
Well, sounds true. Sounds true enough.
Well, the parallel that I wanted to make was one that came up in my hometown in Pasadena, and that's the issue of sanctuary cities.
Okay.
And we've talked about this before. What does it mean if you're a sanctuary city? Are you going to actually have your police department stand at your borders and stop the ICE from coming in, stop the Homeland Security from coming in?
No, I believe it's been pretty well established that basically sanctuary city is akin to don't ask, don't tell.
But
we don't know you're illegal. We don't want to know you're illegal, and we're not telling anybody you're illegal.
My point being, that was not a good policy. Don't ask, don't tell. It was not a good policy. And neither is the whole idea of sanctuary cities. It gives a false sense of hope. And we saw that happen because some of these sanctuary cities became targets for raids on immigrants.
Yeah, again, because Trump then turned around and said, oh, yeah, well, if you're not going to tell me, I'll just, I'll just take my toys and go home.
It doesn't matter who's in office. Every one of those people, every single president we've had since, I would say, Bush 2 for certain. Since 9/11, Americans have steadily given more and more and more power to these people. And that was one of the reasons why I didn't like it back then.
These people who are
the presidents, primarily the executive branch.
Ah, okay.
And we're starting to see now what happens when you put a tyrant in that position and give them all the authority that you wanted to give to this benevolent leader that everybody believes Obama was. When you get a tyrant in that position and they're pulling the other direction, this is the kind of thing you're going to get. And the sad thing is, Trump is not the worst. And frankly, if we get somebody who's further to the left, it could be even worse than that.
So then, instead of people dragging you off the subway when you have a seizure, they'll just shove you off the train because they want your seat.
While it's moving?
Yeah, evidently so.
Danielle's jumping in on the Facebook chat.
Snowpiercer?
Oh, yeah. That's a good movie.
I mean, that's where it's headed, man. That's a hell of a commentary on America.
They do actually say bug protein is where it's at nowadays. It's a very sustainable.
I hesitate to recommend it because it's pretty graphic for a
It's
movie.
a good movie.
It is.
Okay,
Captain America's in it. I'm sure it's on Netflix.
What was Danielle saying?
Danielle jumped on the Facebook chat. She's saying you cannot make policy based off of antidotes.
I think she meant anecdotes.
She said antidotes.
Wait. Did she say antidotes or antidotes?
Antidotes.
Yeah. She's right. You can't make policy off of antidotes.
That's
I don't
true.
know what that means. Anyway, Snowpiercer, great movie. Captain America's there. It's the future. The world is covered in ice.
It was a pretty good movie.
And they're on a train, and that's the only place people can live. Otherwise, you freeze to death.
Okay, well, moving on, and speaking of boneheaded policies
People are eating bugs.
by the Trump administration, have you guys heard that the Trump administration wants
The rich are living off the backs of the poor.
they want to take back control from California as far as their clean air policy is concerned. You know, concessions were made to California many, many years ago, in the late 70s, early 80s, because we had at the time had a really, really bad smog and air quality problem here.
Yeah, you watch some of those old episodes of Chips. You see the LA skyline, it looks like crap.
Orange, yeah. I mean, I remember when I was a kid in school. I remember
Yeah,
we would go
smog
out.
days.
Oh yeah, they were every day with the weather reports. They would give you the traffic, the weather, and the smog. What stage alert we were going to get for smog? It was either 1, 2, or 3. There was never a day we didn't have some kind of a smog alert. It was just a question of what stage it was. 1 was bad, 2 was worse, 3 was pretty much you're gonna die if you
Don't go outside.
Yeah. Oh, and they literally would not let us go outside at a stage 3 smog alert. We were not allowed to go outside and play. Most days you'd go out, and I remember this because one of my favorite sports as a kid was kickball, and we'd go out and play. And by halfway through the lunch period, we played kickball mostly at lunch because recess you only have like 10 minutes or so. It wasn't enough time to get a game going. By the time you got through picking the team, they were already sending you back in. But you
got to pick your teams in class.
Yeah, halfway through the game, you're sitting there going. I mean, I never had asthma, but it hurt really badly to take a deep breath. I mean, you couldn't.
It was pretty bad well into the 90s.
Yeah, and that feeling would last for the rest of the afternoon. So anyway, California was given concessions. They were allowed to start making some of their own policy in terms of clean air, which is why for many, many years, if you went to buy a vehicle, you could buy them outside of the state, and they had different emission standards than buying a car in the state. They were more expensive here in California because we were the ones that instituted the requirement for catalytic converters.
Mufflers.
Yeah, the downstream oxygen sensors. We were the reason that onboard diagnostics 2 came about. All of that stuff was born out of legislation here in California, and it made a huge difference because we can actually run around and not die.
Is this the federal government clapping back on us?
The federal
for trying
exactly
to
what
split.
it is.
Trump has finally
Split into
decided
3
that
states or whatever.
that now there should simply be one policy that affects the entire country, and he basically wants to roll back the standards in California. And among the reasons that they have cited, this is the part that really made me laugh. The Trump administration has argued that these tougher fuel emissions standards, or the tougher smog emissions and higher fuel economy standards that California seeks to put into place are going to kill us.
How so?
That's their argument. Well, number one, they're suggesting that in order to make a vehicle more fuel efficient, they have to continually make it lighter. And if you make it lighter, then, you have older vehicles that are on the road that were, pre these standards that if you get involved in an accident are basically, the law of physics is going to take over. The object with more mass is going to win. And you're going to get crushed and crumpled like a soda can. And quite frankly, we are already seeing that with a lot of cars. But over and above that, the Trump administration is arguing also that in order for these tougher standards to be implemented requires a lot of money be invested in research and development. And anything that the auto manufacturers do on the front side, they're going to pass on to the consumer in the form of increased costs on the backside when you go to buy a new car. The Trump administration is contending that basically it's going to make vehicles cost prohibitive, and so rather than buy a new, more fuel-efficient vehicle, people are going to continue to drive the older cars that are less efficient anyway, and as those cars get older, they become even less efficient, and you're right back to where you started from.
Well, California kind of already had a solution for that, and that was a smog check, because there's a lot of vehicles that you can't drive just because they won't pass.
Yeah, I thought California's solution was to run everybody's vehicle off the road and make them ride bicycles and scooters.
Well, yeah, that's also part of it, but then the problem is you get people who come from other states as tourists, and
Well,
oh
come
wait,
on.
then there's that crazy bullet train where if you have a seizure, you'll get dragged off. And
Well, look at those metro bikes that they tried to put into place, and they've already yanked those.
Because who's going to do that? I mean, seriously, you can't. Have you ever tried to take a 5 or 6 bags of groceries home on a bicycle?
No.
That's not.
I have carried an audio mixer and 12 mics on my motorcycle, though. It was difficult.
Yeah, microphones aren't very big.
Well, they
How
are
about
when
the
they're in an
mixer?
anvil case.
How about the mixer?
Yeah, the mixer doesn't necessarily have to be that big anymore either, thanks to
was a
digital
16-channel
technology.
mixer.
But you try
16
taking 2 or 3 gallons of milk in a bottle of orange juice, a box of cereal, and your eggs,
And the mic
and ride that
stands.
on a bicycle, and see how well that works out for you.
Wait a second. How many gallons of milk does one person need?
Have you seen the way Chevelle eats?
I don't drink milk. That stuff is nasty.
Have you guys tried those other milks, the soy milks?
Oh, newsflash!
almond
Did you know
milks?
that you can't call it milk anymore? If it doesn't lactate, you can't call it milk.
Ew. So you can't call it soy milk
I'm
anymore?
not
You can't.
touching that.
It's a drink.
I'm totally not
Soy
touching
drink? Ew, that sounds even grosser. Soy milk already sounded gross, but
that. If it doesn't lactate, I'm not touching that.
it's gross.
Okay.
It's true.
So anyway,
FDA just changed the way it enforces the
going
standard.
going back to the whole emissions standards thing. I mean, what do you think about the idea that the Trump administration is arguing that there should just be one federal standard that applies to all 50 states?
Okay, now here's where my somewhat libertarian side kicks in.
Oh,
You
this ought to
cannot-
be interesting.
You cannot take a rule that works. Let's even keep it to Southern California. A rule that works in Riverside probably is not going to work in San Francisco. A rule that flies in San Francisco is probably not going to pass the muster in the Inland Empire, because there are different people, different cultures, different ways of doing things.
Okay.
So I don't think it's a good idea. As far as I'm concerned, the Constitution kind of did it right. Constitution did it right.
The Constitution.
Protect the country with the military. Make sure my mail shows up on time. I'm good. That's it.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
I don't need you to do anything else.
Breaking news.
Uh-oh.
An almond doesn't lactate. FDA to crack down on the use of the word milk.
Seriously, Todd, you made me play the breaking news thing for that?
It says got boobs right there. Why? That is a fact.
That is a fact.
Almonds do not lactate.
Yeah.
Wow.
So anyway, my point is, I don't like the idea of having those kind of broad sweeping regulations, and it's just another.
I'm sorry, did
it's
he say
another
broads?
bread. You guys are killing me.
Got boobs.
Oh, okay. This is going to be that episode. So we're going to have to come up with a title for this episode when we repost.
Oh, my goodness. All right. Well, speaking of things of that nature, I guess it is time for us to catch another break right now. And we'll be back shortly because we definitely have more to discuss. There's just so much.
A lot going on, man.
Yeah, there's just so much fodder for the mill tonight. You are watching
Wait a
Around
minute.
Midnight.
Can we technically call it fodder? I don't know that that's...
Or a mill.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's true. The federal government might be cracking down on that next. This is the show that used to be called Around Midnight. Well, it used to be Around Midnight. We're still called Around Midnight. We used to be Around Midnight. I was going to call us around 10 p.m. tonight, too, but I would think that was carrying it too far. Anyway, local boys...
Well, around 10 p.m. is accurate.
Yeah,
it did not go on at 10 p.m.
That's true. That's boy, did we miss that mark. Joe Carbonetta, Chevelle Devine, Todd Fluker, right here. Give us a call. It's not 626. It's 951-356-6882. Sorry, I'm having flashbacks to the old days, and we'll be back right after this. Around Midnight is a production of Mixified Media Solutions. Mixified is a full-service multimedia production company. From boardroom to broadcast, whatever your production needs, Mixified is your solution. Go to Mixified.com, that's MIXAFIED, or call 951-356-6882. Mixified Media Solutions.